Start thinking digital, right? Set a strategy with the impact of digital in your business model. Number two, set the ambition high. Three, set the stake in some short-term goals that are also high-value targets. Exercise your muscles and create continuity in that process.
I'm your host Rahul, and today you folks are in for a treat as we have a pioneer with us on the show today. But before I introduce you to our guest, allow me to introduce you to the magic of Engati. Engati is the world's leading multilingual no-code chatbot platform available across 14 channels, with 35,000 bots created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc.com, TechWorld, CIO, and many others. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, of course, that you guys absolutely love. And now for our special guest, none other than Josue. And Josue is a pioneer of digital transformation. And he believes digital disruption is an opportunity that all organizations should seize as technology impacts the world around us. The world demands a change in business models, and the time to adapt, transform, thrive, and grow is now. He guides clients in the healthcare space or on how to come up with a digitalization strategy, vision, and how to translate vision to action that results in sustainable value. So welcome to the show, Josue. It's such an honor to have you on board.
Rahul, thank you so much. I am glad to be here. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. The pleasure is ours. And so straight up jumping to the first question we have. And before we do that, remember to subscribe to our channel, guys, and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content from thought leaders, amazing people like Josue come on the show, and they throw light on digital transformation, CX, automation, AI, all that cool stuff you don't want to miss. So make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any content. So Josue, directly jumping on to the first question, and I think this is very important for the people who are watching our show and very basic, which is, what are the key strategies for successful digital transformation?
Well, first of all, there is no one recipe. There is no a magic wand that you can just apply to your organization, right? Because we know that every organization is different. You may be in a different space from a business model perspective. There are geolocation considerations, culture considerations, whether you are a local company or a global company. So there is no one recipe. However, there are some very basic ingredients, and the perhaps good news, if there is any, amidst all this very bad situation with COVID-19 and the pandemic, is that digital transformation now is forcing organizations to be better at digitalization, because it's the only way in some cases they can continue to provide the value delivery that they were intended at the beginning. So going back to your question, I'd like to say, first of all, that digital transformation, I think it's extremely important to understand this, everyone. Digital transformation is less about technology and more about your business model. In other words, you must be a digital company, a digital mentality, a digital organization before attempting to do digital transformation. Otherwise, it will be extremely challenging. So I will say that the key strategies for that, first of all, think of the digitization to digitalization. If there are areas in your organization that you can apply digital, I'm not talking about digital transformation yet, but let's say that you have manual processes, perhaps analog information, papers, etc., that you can bring into a digital format, that is going to prepare you even more. And to be successful, also the second aspect, in addition to thinking digital, the second thing is you better have a strategy, because you better have a plan, right? It's not, I have seen over the years, Rahul, so many companies that they are so positive, they really want to do digital, they create a project, right? And everybody's excited, and they apply time and resources, but there is no overall strategy. There is no overall ending vision as to where do you want to be, and why do you want to be in that path, and what do you want to accomplish. So I would suggest for you to spend time in a strategy, setting up a digital strategy, which that means is basically assess what is the impact. Number one, assess the impact of digital in your organization. Secondly, set goals. You have to set ambitious goals. There may be big goals, and you don't have to accomplish them all at once, But you can just start with baby steps, but set ambitious goals, set the bar high in terms of where do you want to be, where do you see yourself in the future. One thing that I typically say to boards of directors and executives is that organizations don't dream enough. I know that sounds soft because everybody wants to be, in technology and creating things, but I think it's important to visualize what the future is for your organization. So creating a vision is important. And then secondly, place stake in the ground on big bets. I call them big bets, right? What that means is, find high value targets, right? So in addition to having the vision, then set steps high enough that you're going to be working on them, in smaller steps, but set them clear enough for everybody. And then, like us as humans, we need to exercise once in a while. I will suggest for organizations also to exercise step number 4, to exercise the new strategy muscles in terms of they may have literacy digital literacy, what I call. They may have to educate, may have to get people involved through education as to what digital means. And that has to be an active process. It cannot be, just one project. So that is step number 5. Make sure that your transformation is active. So again, just to recap, start thinking digital, right? Set a strategy with the impact of digital in your business model. Number 2, set the ambition high. 3, set the stake in some short-term goals that are also high-value targets. Exercise your muscles and create continuity in that process.
I'd like to congratulate you because you just dropped gems over gems over gems on the first answer itself. Because these are absolutely important steps and points that you have, pointed out. I have spoken, Josue. I have spoken to a number of thought leaders, and all of them have one complaint for organizations is that they have no vision and they are just jumping on the digital CX. I mean, digital bandwagon because other companies are doing it, so let's do it. That's not how it works, right? And there is no one-way ticket to it. There is no. I mean, it totally depends on how you are, what your business models are, how are the people in your organization. And definitely it all starts by thinking digitally first. It's not the tools. It's never the tools. It's about how you operate and how you are as a personality, as a business. So definitely some great points put out by you. So thank you so much for that. Well, moving on to my second question, and you had us a little curious over here as to know. So tell us about structured business architecture strategies and methodologies that and how they relate to platforms and tech used in current market scenarios.
Right. That is a subject that I'm extremely passionate about because it is an often known, it's not understood well. And of course, there is not that much adoption yet when it comes to business architecture.
Correct.
I think most of us are familiar with technical architecture because of the, for example, a reference architecture that you use to implement, a solution, for example. But when it comes to business architecture, in my view and in my experience over more than 10 years, I think that is essential. There is a very important body of knowledge already available to all of us through the Business Architecture Guild that I joined about 10 years ago, and I'm a contributor to the Business Architecture Book of Knowledge, along with many other contributors all over the world. And we are building reference business architectures for different industries. Now, for the audience, for the friends that are listening to this, let's level set. What is business architecture? So business architecture is basically a blueprint of the capabilities and value generation streams that you have within your organization. What that means is that independently, if you are in mining or in pharma or in health insurance or in technology, there are some foundational capabilities that you need in order to generate the value, right? So for example, if you are in mining, your value proposition better be profitable in that mining work that you are doing, right? And there is a lot of work, of course, associated with that. But in order to be profitable and generate the revenue and the results that you expect, there are some foundational capabilities. And that is what business architecture is about. Business architecture is about understanding the organization from an abstraction point of view, not at the instance level, but an abstraction, so you can actually identify the key capabilities that you need in order to generate value. Everything that we do should be value driven.
Right.
And business architecture is in that sense. So there are a lot of tools that you can use. For example, value streams. I love value streams. For example, it's just one way to take advantage of business architecture, because let's say that you don't have a capability model already created for your organization. Sometimes it takes years for an organization to create a capability model.
Right.
But everyone should be working at least in researching what that means and how to apply it, because number one is going to allow you to create value streams, document what triggers a value stream, what is the value created, and what capabilities do you need there. Are those capabilities inside your organization? Perhaps they're outside your organization. You need to know that, because, for example, how can you implement an integration to a new technology, for example, chatbots, or you want to integrate more analytics, if you don't even have an understanding of your own organization capabilities and how value is created? It's typically, as I put it, Rahul, sometimes when I go and do presentations about business architecture, I say in most organizations, business architecture is like a broken mirror. You get the image, but it's still
Right.
fragmented, right? So all
Right.
these different pieces, and you get a fragmented, you never get a complete understanding of it. So think of business architecture as the blueprint that you need to build a house, to build, bridge, all the components that you need. And I think they are important in this, especially in this current market scenario, because the pandemic is still here, right?
True.
Having an understanding of your capabilities, meaning what do I have today, even before COVID, and how can I pivot, adapt, change my current capabilities? Rahul, there's an example out there. There's plenty, but there's an example of this bakery that they were COVID. They got devastated with COVID completely. I mean, they were doing a lot of business. It's a cash flow driven business. Because it's a commodity. Bread, for example. So COVID devastated their business because the model that they have was very related to people. They can
Correct.
contact with people. So what did they do? Well, they have these ovens with high temperature already there. And they found an opportunity to use some of the idle time that they have, that they were not baking bread, to actually sterilize equipment and use that heat to do other things that were not necessarily related to their business model. But they
Right.
knew that they had that capability.
Right.
And I know that is a very simplistic example. Someone may say, well, I am a global company. I don't know a baker. But the same principle applies. Do you know what capabilities you have already in your organization
Right.
that you can leverage, adapt, change, enhance in order to create additional value? Perhaps something you never imagined before. So yes, business architecture, I can talk for hours about it. I really encourage you and your friends that are listening to research, do your research as to what it is. Check out the Business Architecture Guild organization is the leader when it comes to that knowledge, and start exploring how can that be of help to you when it comes to digitalization.
Absolutely. Jose, this is one of the most important answers because we have so many young entrepreneurs, business owners, and who are looking to start a business watching the show, right? And this is huge inspiration for you, for them as well, because uh, when stuff comes from experts like you, right, who've been in the business for 10 plus years, this opens up a whole new gate of possibilities and knowledge to them also, especially in the scenario wherein you mentioned about the bakery who use their capabilities in a different way and actually pivoted to profit and or maybe towards success. And I think one thing that COVID has really taught us is, even if you are an individual or a business, it's very important to be dynamic. You can't be oh, this is what I do, this is what I will do till the rest of my life. You've got to change, you've got to evolve, and the market will compel you to do that. So definitely a very smart answer for the people there. Thank you so much. uh,
Sure.
Moving on to the next question, and we spoke about the current market scenarios, and and digital transformation, DX, has been huge on this. So due to this aggressive nature and speed of digital transformation that's happening, those crazy technologies are coming in, and a lot of things are happening, right? So what DX artifacts should B2B companies use to be ahead of their competition?
Right. So, first of all, that is an extremely important question. I think out of our big conversation, I think that is the most important question because number one, COVID has changed the rules.
Correct.
I think we're overstating that. Secondly, individuals and organizations are being bombarded on a daily basis with offerings of services and products that I get it. It's well intentioned. For example, I get on a daily basis 5 to 10 offers to, hey, do you need any software? Right? Do you need any apps? And sometimes I think, does the world need one more app like the Josue app, right? But setting the joke aside, it is hard. It is hard nowadays more than ever. It was hard before COVID. But how can you differentiate yourself? How can you remain competitive, profitable, relevant in this environment when now everybody's flocking into digital more than ever? You see, COVID changed the rules in that because now it is the process of reaching has been enhanced for digital because now we are all glued to some digital device because of COVID, right? Because of the distancing, right? So more than ever, it is important to have a strategy. Again, going back to the fundamentals, start thinking digital, start building a strategy, understand what your capabilities are today. And here are the things to answer your question. I have 5 things that I think are important for anyone in order to start thinking of a competitive strategy. Again, there is no one recipe. Every company is different. Your geolocation is different. Your people culture is different. But here are 5 things that are extremely important. Number 1 is start thinking in terms of blue oceans. And I know that this is going to sound very soft because some of you may be expecting a tool, right? Or a software or an app that is going to help me to be competitive. But I encourage you to explore the blue ocean strategy. It's actually a book by Chan Kim and Renee Maborg. Maborg. Was mispronounced her name. And what basically the premise of the book is that there is red oceans and blue oceans, right? A red ocean is already crowded. It is bloody. You don't want to be there, right? So if you are in a commodity space, like for example, software, unfortunately, software development is a commodity nowadays. There are thousands of organizations all over the world with very high quality, good people that can do extremely well software. So if you're going to start a software company, you're already in a bloody ocean, right? Your competition is going to be tremendous, right? However, that doesn't mean that you need to stop and give up. The question is, makes it harder, how can I make a blue ocean for myself? What capabilities I have, skill sets, experiences that I can create? How can I use digital in a different way, right? To create better experiences, better value that differentiate me and create my own blue ocean. So that is number 1. Second thing is, make sure, as you said it before, Rahul, I know this sounds soft, but believe me, it works when you do it. It fails when you don't do it. Create a vision. Start with your why. What and why. That is the show that I have for 2 years. What and why first. I know everybody wants to jump immediately into the how, the where, the who, all of those aspects. But most people neglect the 2 most important questions. What are we doing and why? And sometimes you have to ask why 3, 4, 5 times. And for that, I suggest our friends to go to YouTube and listen to Simon Sinek. Simon Sinek, it has excellent books called Start With Why, with many business examples, including Apple and other companies that start with why, and that explains why they are successful regardless of time and conditions. So have your vision, have your what and why clear. The third thing that I suggest for everybody to take a look at is lean startup. What that means basically is there are ways for you to test, to experiment with new ways of generating value on which you don't have to invest a significant amount of time. And the pioneer of that is Eric Ries with the Lean Startup. That is a book that I have read 2 times, and actually I always have it with me here. Here is the Lean Startup, and now he has the book called the Startup Way. I really suggest our friends to look into the Lean Startup approach, which basically says, start with experimentation, test hypotheses for value and growth. Don't try to boil the ocean, right? Because you're not going to do that at once. And work in iterations, right? Until you get the answer of value and growth right with quick experimentation. And it's okay to fail. In fact, if you want to fail fast. Right. And that is what Lean is about. It is okay to fail as soon as you do it quickly, and then you can learn from that experience and apply that learning for the future. And then you mentioned it already, agility is also quite important. Our friends, please go to and check the Agile Manifesto. I know that was created mostly for software, but it's being used nowadays in manufacturing, it's used in aerospace, it's used in construction, in the sense of planning. So the Agile Manifesto basically means that you need to be adaptable, you need to be flexible. Instead of providing a rigid structure to get things more on continuous improvement, as opposed to defining a solution upfront and spending years, and then at the end, when you deliver, you may find that the customer perhaps doesn't need what they told you 2 years ago. So lean, agile, having a vision, creating your blue ocean, those things are going to help you to be more competitive.
Absolutely. Some fantastic book recommendations by Josue, and some great YouTube videos that you suggested. I suggest all of the viewers to go check them out, and definitely at the end of the podcast, we will be linking Josue's LinkedIn, all socials onto the show notes. So if you guys ever cross across something that you want to have a discussion with Josue, I think you can reach out to him over LinkedIn, and y'all can have a conversation straight up with him as well. A lot of fresh insights coming from his way as well. So that being said, moving on to my next question, and I think this has been like, since the lockdown, a lot of businesses have been looking to this is AI powered chatbots, right? So how effective exactly are AI powered chatbots in this era of digital transformation, Josue?
You know what? That is not necessarily my space, but I really believe, based on the conversations that I had, and for example, just give you one example.
Right.
Last summer, I spent some time in Toronto, Canada, speaking at 2 different conferences in terms of automation, intelligent automation. And one of my presentations was the business positioning of chatbots, especially artificial intelligence chatbots. And for our friends, just if you are new to chatbots, probably you are not, but just in case, a chatbot is basically an app that allows you to interact with a user as if they were chatting or having a conversation, with a human, right? And they can be human in the background. It could be someone actually typing, and having that conversation. But most recently, the automation of those chatbots have come to a place in where, there are some questions that, some basic information that you can set. So people are not just sent to a call center, because especially with COVID, that could be very frustrating to have to navigate a labyrinth of a call center until you get the answer. Nowadays, if I am on the go, I can just bring my phone and I can have a chat bot there, and I can ask a question about my mortgage payment. I can have a question about my medical results. All that can be done securely and safely through a chat with now a bot. Now, here's in my experience, what I think is important, and I think you, Rahul, already mentioned this.
Right.
So we know chatbots are important. I think every company should have a strategy that includes chatbots, right? Now, here's the key. Personalization is the key of success for a chatbot implementation strategy.
Absolutely.
Okay, and let me explain what that means. There's 2 types of intelligent or smart chatbots. They are the ones in which you can set a number of questions already there, and it's kind of pre-programmed. So the chat actually is being driven by the script that was already placed, and that is kind of version 1.0 of chatbots, right? And they still are there, and they're very efficient. There are industries in which there is a very structure how you get to the person that is going to help you. Sometimes a script helps, right, tremendously to get you there using a chatbot.
Right.
But most recently, artificial intelligence have made it extremely efficient to add the integration between your customer information that you already have in your CRM or your customer relationship management or any other information you have. Some of the most innovative artificial intelligence chatbot, Rahul, you probably know this more than me because you are in the business. They can actually complement the personalized data with other sources of data.
Absolutely.
In addition to the one that you have. So that makes personalization is the key here, because here's what happens. There is two types of client or stakeholder data that every organization could have, right? Like, for example, healthcare space here in the USA. What I call, when I do presentations about intelligence, automation, chatbots, artificial intelligence, I say typically to the executives and board of directors and other people, you have what I call boring data about Josue. So Josue, here I am, Josue, right? So they know my age, they know my, male, female, they have my address, they may have some conditions that I have or I don't have, etc. Right? I call that is, very boring information. If you want to reach me, Josue, to offer me a service that is of value to me, that you perceive as, oh, we need to reach Josue for this, you can use that boring data, right? You can use my email address, you can use my, you may even have some social media information, but most companies don't even have that.
Right.
So they send me an email or they send me something in the mail. And I get them here, Rahul. Sometimes I get an offer that says, hey, Josue, sign up for this plan or whatever, and we'll send you a ticket to the baseball game. And I'm like, yeah, I was born in Venezuela. I know baseball, but I haven't been in a baseball game for the last 15 years. Mm-hmm. However, if the same capability would have included just my Facebook page, which is public information, they would have found there that I love, football, soccer, soccer. Real Madrid in Spain, I am a fan of Real Madrid, right? Mm-hmm. They would have found that. And it's okay if they don't send me a ticket. It would be nice if they send me a ticket to Spain, right? But what if they say, hey, the next championship, we're going to give you one free, live feed, to the game or the next game. Just pick the next game and we'll give it to you for free, for example. Right. To your channel on YouTube, or we will send it to you, for example, so you can watch the game. And that was so easy to find. It was already there. So I know that I'm extending a lot of this, but I figure that, number one, if you're going to do a chatbot in your organization, make sure that it's AI powered as opposed to the scripting. With the AI, you get both. You can do a script, but better yet, you can personalize the experience and the engagement with your customer 10, 100 times better. And secondly, add personalization. You already have information about your customer there in your organization, and you can even enhance it with other sources of information to create no boring data, but active, personalized, effective, reach to the point data when you are interacting with that customer. Does that make sense, Rahul?
Definitely makes sense. And this is exactly what we at Engati believe, right? We do not believe in making Terminator robots who are ready to kill you by the same boring information, the same script. What we believe is at every end of the business, there is a human being, and it has to always center with human conversations. Simple things like taking up your name when you enter the chatbot, like, hey, how's Josue? How are you doing? it gives a different point of view. It gives a different welcoming feeling to the customer when he's on the chatbot. Other than this is always when I speak to a lot of thought leaders. This is the example I give every single time. You never want some chatbot telling you, "Hey, user 3459, welcome." I mean, that's like so. It's very robotic, right? So it's always has to be personalized. The best point that you mentioned was just have a get more information about you, more relevant information that will get you interested into what we are pitching towards you. First of all, you are a real one for following Real Madrid. Great
Okay,
team. I really love Real Madrid.
good.
Great players. I mean, Ramos and my Ronaldo, definitely my favorite. So things like that, right? Just trying to get in more information and make it more relevant and personal for the customer that you are actually targeting makes the entire difference, and you can win and lose deals with that, if I'm not wrong, right?
Right, right.
Absolutely. So totally agree to that, and that's what Engati has been built with. We have our proprietary NLP, very smart chatbots that actually tailored conversation can have tailored conversations for the customers, and that's the exact motto that we believe in. So thank you so much for that.
If I may add one detail there that you mentioned in NLP, the natural language processing,
Right.
I think it's important for our friends to understand this in terms of the experience. We are living in stressful times.
Correct.
Like when people reach out to a company or to an organization, most likely they need help. They are not doing that just because they want to say hi and thank you for the good service, right? More than often, they have a challenge, they have a constraint, they have an urgency. And it's very important not to create aberration to your customer
Right.
by providing a cold interface that is a mechanical chatbot.
Correct.
Natural language processing is so advanced that allows you to determine the sentiment of the state of mind of that customer at that moment by just the way that they address, the way that they express their questions, the way that they respond in real time using NLP. You can have that analysis to the
Absolutely.
point that you can adapt the conversation. If the customer is agitated and they need urgency, then you can perhaps adapt the conversation to a tone that is more helpful, more understanding, more empathetic, and perhaps get someone live right away, for example.
Right.
Right? As opposed to someone that is just looking, for the bank statement is not there and they just want to know what it's at. That is a more mechanical kind of administrative situation. So I think it's important when you do your checklist as to what digitalization means and how chatbots include in your organization, make sure AI and NLP, which is a subset of AI, are included in the strategy as well.
Exactly, and that definitely helps you take the conversation in a very much more efficient way. And
Right.
exactly, if you're doing it, I mean, do it right, or else don't just do it. That's how simple it is. Moving on to my next question, uh, and this has been a very scary situation for a lot of us with a lot of digital coming in, but again, there are a lot of concerns around digital also. So, what gaps, Josue, need to be filled in such areas such as digital traceability, and how can we improve on this?
Yeah, that is a very important question. Just to level set, traceability for some of us have been constrained until most recent years to the software development space, right? Which you
Right.
want to create traceability from the requirements all the way to the delivery, of that capability or functionality. The traceability that we're talking here, Rahul, I presume, is more related to how do we verify the provenance, the history, the origin, whether something has not been tampered or being is added something that should not be there, right? That is the type of traceability that we're
Correct.
talking about. So that goes back to it's a very important aspect, by the way. I think more than ever, when we have not just a global society where supply chains are completely distributed all over the world, but in addition to that, think of the logistic constraints that COVID has created, right? So we have people, and we haven't seen the end of it yet, but we have people that need services, that need products, especially physical products, medicine, food. It could be natural resources. It could be grains, wood, stones, for whatever capacity is needed, natural resources. How do you ensure that those products, those physical products that you are receiving, or even digital products? I want to set a sidebar in a moment. In a moment, we want to talk about digital traceability in that context as well. But let's talk about just now the physical aspect of traceability. So think, for example, pharma, right? We know, for example, this is well documented that every year, this is unfortunate, every year between 100,000 to 1 million people die because of counterfeit medicines. There was no way to find who made them, how did they got into the market. Think of the situation that happened in some countries, that medicine, that is, you don't even know where it comes from, right? And this could be your loved ones that need help in some capacity. So traceability, there are efforts nowadays with companies like SAP, Microsoft, Oracle, and others. They are creating some traceability frameworks that I really encourage all of you to check out. You can go to the Oracle website or the SAP website, and they have, you search for traceability, and they give you reference models about this. And most of them are based on blockchain, right? In the sense that blockchain, it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, right? This is not about cryptocurrencies. Blockchain is an immutable, which means unchangeable ledger that is as close or open as you need it for the intended parties, the people who are relevant to that information, to guarantee traceability from one point of origin to another point of destination along the way. Right? So that is in very simplistic terms. And if you go, for example, Amazon has two very interesting implementations of a blockchain. They have one that is ledgers. It's not actually a true blockchain in the sense that it doesn't allow you to do peers participating. It's more for internal companies. So if you have processes that you need to track and prove to a regulator, for example, that you are creating this pharmaceutical, and internally you want to show that the provenance of the raw materials, the processes that you apply, the quality control that was done, the sign off, all of that is in a ledger that cannot be changed or altered. There are solutions for that. So pharmaceuticals is an area that I believe it can benefit tremendously, and some companies are doing a lot of work on that. Another area that I think is important for traceability that you should keep in mind as you are in the business, or could be a business opportunity as well, is medical devices. Think of the respirators, right, that are needed today to treat some patients for COVID.
Absolutely.
If you are in a country perhaps like the United States or Canada, you may have a manufacturer that creates that product. But if you are in other places in the world, sometimes you don't know what that device was made, whether they have toxics in the materials that were used. You don't know the provenance of it. So applying some degree of traceability to that is also important. And we already touched on food and beverages. I know that there are some claims out there. One time I got into, so Rahul, sometimes I got into a very interesting, very animated online conversation with a rep and Oracle that said, we can use blockchain to trace wine, for example, to trace olive oil. And I'm thinking, well, how are you doing that? I said, well, we're putting a tag or something on the bottle so it's not open. I said, well, how do you guarantee the content?
Right.
Content is what we want to track, not the bottle, not the box, right?
Exactly.
So again, there are opportunities there because we have seen outbreaks of salmonella. We have seen E. coli outbreaks related to food and the food supply. And what typically happens, Rahul, is the whole product has to be destroyed everywhere. Like, for example, when there is a vegetable here in the US, Walmart has a problem with E. coli in lettuce. The entire lettuce all over the country has to be destroyed. However, if you know the provenance and you can trace back to the origin, then you can actually be more cost efficient when it comes to more safer, actually, than doing it that way. Europe have been doing that for years. You can trace, you buy a product like beef or any other product, chicken, whatever, or even vegetables in some cases, you can trace that product back to the farm, through their system. It's regulated that way. And I think finally, the natural resources, I think we want to leave this earth in a better shape than where we found it, right? So natural resources are also a way to trace, right? If we want to be more conscious of what we use and consume, right? Making sure that what's created and harvested in a sensitive way. So there are many technologies in that sense. So the bottom line is that traceability is, number one, a tremendous opportunity from a business value perspective, because consumers are demanding, actually, in some cases, traceability for social and greener reasons. And on the other spectrum, we need traceability to protect ourselves from toxics, from counterfeit medicines, from food that may be contaminated. That traceability really helps.
Absolutely. These are some wonderful points that I've heard. Never thought of it this way, because a lot of it comes with a dilemma or a fear that, hey, all traceability is bad traceability. Not
Right.
necessarily. I mean, like you mentioned, right, in the pharma industry, be it in the food industry, a lot of the traceability can actually benefit a lot of us, and make sure that the even in social and environmental, like you mentioned, a lot of it is necessary, and has to be done as soon as possible, because these are certain very important issues that we are dealing on a day-to-day basis, and traceability can definitely be that missing puzzle piece that we actually are looking for. And
Right.
fantastic answer that was where, really really appreciate that. Well, this has been a great conversation, so many great insights, and very fresh insights by you. Before we close out, are there any sound bites you'd like to leave our audience with? Because a lot of our audience are really young people who, and a lot of middle-aged and old people as well, who are experienced in their fortes of business, and a lot of business enthusiasts. So what does Mr. Josue has for all of us? Like, any sound bites you want to leave?
Sure, absolutely. So if there is something that I want everyone to remember and to keep in mind, is something that I have been preparing. I've been doing a body of work on that, and hopefully will be published over the next year. Is the future is 3D. What I mean with that is digital, is distributed, and is decentralized, right? And we know what that means, right? Digitalization is here to stay. It's not something that is optional anymore. We live in a distributed world, and COVID has highlighted that significantly. We need to rely on each other, on different capabilities and on different ecosystems that we have. So why to reinvent the wheel when perhaps there is already an offering of that service, of that value proposition that you can tap into using cloud technologies, for example. That is a tremendous opportunity there. And then finally, it's going to be decentralized in the sense that I don't think there's going to be, over the next 5 to 10 years, there's going to be more decentralization in the sense of where the residing center of driving power for value creation will reside. And let me explain quickly what that means. Typically big companies are being the one driving a lot of the value generation, right?
Right.
So only if you are an Amazon, if you are a Facebook, if you are a Microsoft, a big company, a Google, you are driving what people see, what people interact, what people, they're pretty much dictating, right, those things. Well, digitalization and now COVID and the distribution and democratization of technology is breaking those things apart,
Absolutely.
right? And especially democratization of technology, meaning that technology is now accessible to a degree never seen before. I remember, Rahul, you probably are too young for this, but I remember when I was experimenting with Linux 1.0,
Right.
in a beat up 486 machine, working there, trying to figure this out and installing Oracle there to do a Java servlet. And, this is ancient technology. Nowadays, you can actually do that instantiation in the cloud and do experimentation and learn and create value and test for value and growth quickly. and fail fast. And as each time that you fail, it's okay because you are learning.
Correct.
So I think it doesn't matter if you are young or someone like me that is older, I am constantly learning. Why? Because that is the future. The future is distributed, digital, and decentralized. And I know that that takes time. If there is no better time than now. So my grandfather used to say there's two best times to plant that tree that you always wanted in your front yard. 20 years ago or today.
Correct.
So do it today, start today. There is so many, so much emerging technology available. And I know that for some people, change is hard. And I think managing change could be stressful. But I think the key is to start with baby steps, right? Start seeing things in a different way. Start learning. I call that digital literacy. So I start, watching podcasts like this one from Rahul. I have plenty of videos, 3 5 minute videos about digitalization, and again, you have to set in mind that it's a constant, continuing experimentation in your own mind as to how value is created. It cannot be set in stone. It's always going to be different. So take your time, but start now, right? It's like Warren Buffett, the famous Warren Buffett, the Oracle Omaha. He said one time to Bill Gates, "You cannot have a baby in 1 month by asking 9 women to get pregnant." Right? So you need to set a timeline, be strategic, be thoughtful as to where do you want to go. If you're a young person, you can fail many times, because you're young. You have blocks of 5 years to, oh, I want to be a data science. Oh no, maybe no, I want to be artificial intelligence. It's okay. If you're older, perhaps your cycles are smaller and you need to be more precise as to how you apply your learning. But if nothing else, if there is something you can take from this conversation, is the future is 3D, digital, distributed, decentralized, and never, ever stop learning. Always learn something new.
Absolutely.
And sharing with others.
Absolutely. And these are some fine words by a fine man, Josue Batista, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you so much, Josue, for
Oh,
giving
you're
us your
welcome.
time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and your insights were killer and amazingly valuable. And I know our audience are really going to enjoy this interview. And also, we will leave all the links to Josue's social media to the show notes. So definitely make sure. Josue, where can the audience reach you? Do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have your LinkedIn? Could you tell our
Yes,
audience?
yes, I do. So my blog is a video blog.
Mhm.
It's called What and Why First.
Mhm.
What and Why First. You
Right.
can find me on LinkedIn. That is the main platform that I use. That is how we got connected, Rahul, through
Mhm.
LinkedIn. So you can just put the tag, # What and Why First, and you will find my profile and some of my videos, my video library on LinkedIn. And there's also a YouTube channel, also called What and Why First, and there's plenty of information there. And you can visit my website, whatandwhyfirst.com. So there's information there as well. And please reach out. I love to engage in conversations. Don't be afraid to reach out, to just to have a conversation, to have an introduction. I really enjoy that, especially now when I cannot be out, right? I try to limit being outside. I will certainly appreciate, reach out if you want to have a conversation about any of these topics. I really enjoy doing that.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. What and Why First is the place you have to be. Reach out to Mr. Josue Batista. Fantastic guy. Amazing, amazing insight. And we'll leave all the links to his socials in the show notes. So make sure you check the description. Definitely do subscribe to the channel. Amazing people like Josue come through. You already know by watching this interview. So we will see you around for the next one, back with a new episode and a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.